on the CTV Movie.
Hello there everyone, it is me KSL of KSL Tech Studios, and today I am going to showcase my brand new budget Hackintosh build for 2017. Now around the beginning of this year I kind of had the idea, hey, I'm kind of sick and tired of using my Mac Mini. It's kind of a low powered little system, it's not really good for much. It's about the same caliber performance as my ThinkPad T440, so I mean, I sold that machine off, and during that time I kind of had a few intermediary machines while I kind of thought about what I actually wanted. And now it's already August. For the last few months I've been putting all these parts together, getting them together, as in obviously having them come here to where I'm at, and I finally got everything together. So I thought I would give you all a parts overview first. Now we're going to do the build video, and then we are going to do the final setup of macOS 10, because this is obviously going to be a Hackintosh, as you read in the title. So let's start here from right to left. This right here is a Intel DQ67SW motherboard. It is an LGA 1155 socket motherboard. It has the Intel Q67 Express chipset. I've seen a few people on the Tony Mac 86 forums use it, so I thought, hey, it's cheap and I can use it. What's the big deal? Over here, leaning precariously upon the box that's already somewhat leaning forward, is a 1.5 terabyte Western Digital green hard drive. This is the biggest hard drive I happen to have on hand, and I just need it for storing all my data, because obviously I have a lot of it and the small SSD won't handle that. So this just keeps all my files safe. This will keep all my files. This SSD right there, which is an Intel SSD of unknown variety. I don't know, it was another kind of spare part I had laying around. It's 160 gigabytes. It should be perfect for just basic system tasks and for applications and the macOS system itself. Right here we have the CPU I'm going to use. It is an Intel Core i5-2500S, again an Intel Sandy Bridge CPU on the 1155 socket. It was another spare part, so I think that's why I'm choosing it. Plus it's not actually that bad of a CPU. It's got better performance than any of the laptops I got around here, so I think that's why I'm going to be using that. Here I have the RAM sticks. These were a very good find on Amazon for me, because I don't actually have any RAM laying around that is of this provenance that can work on the motherboard I've chosen. Those are 2 sticks of DDR3L memory. Although this motherboard takes DDR3, DDR3L obviously works in DDR3 motherboard. 8 gigabytes, 2 4 gigabyte sticks should be enough for macOS 10. I don't really think I'll be upgrading this machine to 16 gigabytes because, well, I'm not going to be keeping around for very long. Optical drive, for the rare occasion that I want to use a optical medium. Over here is the Thermaltake cooler. It's a Gravity i2. It's fairly decent. I kind of bought it because I don't actually have a stock cooler for this CPU, as it was pulled out of a computer, specifically an iMac, that had issues, so I can't use the cooler off of it. So I had to get one of those. It's pretty cheap, it was like 15 bucks, so not really a problem. Behind there is the biggest purchase I have made for this PC build. It is an nVidia GeForce GTX 1050 Ti graphics card, because first of all, the integrated graphics on the Core i5 do not work whatsoever with macOS 10, and I honestly want a little bit more power in this computer, so the 1050 Ti, I know it's right now is around the mining craze, but I got this actually for a decent price, so it's didn't barely get ripped off for it. I mean, obviously you are going to get ripped off for PC parts considering I live in Canada, but what will you do? And right here, you can't quite see it, it's an Antec 500 watt green power supply. which was another spare part I had laying around, and it should be enough for all these PC parts, so whatever. And this is the Thermaltake Versa H15 micro ATX case. It was one of the cheapest cases I've seen around, and honestly, when I open it up, it's not that bad of quality, so I am definitely happy I found it. I didn't actually buy this online. I bought this at a local computer store, so I didn't have it be mishandled with United Parcel Smashers or Canada Post or whatnot. So I guess that's around it for the actual parts overview. I'm going to clean all this stuff up, and we're going to start with the main build. So, on to the first part of the build. Here we obviously have the motherboard, the CPU cooler, and the CPU. So we are going to put the CPU and the cooler onto my motherboard here. So I'm going to open this up. Very nicely packaged from the eBay seller I bought it from. So, here's the motherboard itself. This is an Intel DQ67SW motherboard. Bought it straight off of eBay. So, set that down there in its pink bag. Put this here. Close up the box. Move that there. Okay. So on top of here we have the I/O shield, which I'm going to take off after I unbag this thing. I don't want to damage any of the socket pins. That's my main concern at this moment. So I'm just going to take off the tape at the bottom here. Heck, I might even... No, I think I'll be good. No, I'm going to need a pair of scissors to cut through it. So, there we go. Alrighty, it's open. The tape. There we go. Now it's open. So, take off the packaging here. So right here we have the 1155 socket, which looks to be in good condition. And here I have my 1155 CPU. So I'm going to just take that out of the packaging. Well, not really. That's what I store it in. Touching the so we're going to move it around to where the golden triangle is. I'm going to hold it, and I'm just going to put it on top of here. So now I'm going to move this thing out, and we have the socket all opened up. So simply place it into the socket. I'm just going to close this down, and then I'm going to push it in. There we go. That's done. That wasn't so hard, was it? I seriously anxiety right now. Here's a Thermaltake cooler. We have the mounting bracket, which on this one is kind of a hard plastic with screws embedded in it. I really don't know what the exact material is, but that's fine. And on the cooler we already have some pre-applied thermal paste. I know people are like, oh, don't use the pre-applied stuff. But honestly, I don't really mind. It's a pretty low power CPU anyway, so it should be fine. So on the bottom we're going to put this CPU plate on. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply lay it down on top of this plate. Okay. And I'm going to grab a screwdriver, which I hope is the right size for this. It should be okay, I hope. So now I'm going to take off the little plastic cover that covers the CPU. I'm going to orient the cooler so that the little cord for the plug-in is in the right place. So it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, this way? This way could be fine, and then I won't have a lot of space to, like, a lot of extra cord everywhere. So yeah, that's probably how I'm going to put it. Okay. Okay, now we are going to plug in the CPU cooler itself to the actual fan connector, which I believe goes in this direction because this is a 3-pin fan, and I have only and this is a 4-pin header on the socket. Now, I didn't actually know that the fan was going to only be a 3-pin version. I thought it was also going to be a 4-pin, but unfortunately it was only a 3-pin. I guess you get what you get in this case. But, I mean, the cooler is mounted, and it's not mounted crooked, and all the things are in all the screws are in the proper places. So I guess that's something to be happy about. So there we go. I think we're done in this part. Now I'm going to go get the case, and we're going to mount the motherboard into the actual case. I'm going to open up the case on camera. Alright, so here is our case. Obviously it's a Thermaltake Versa H15, as I explained earlier. I guess we could do a little tour. On the top we have a USB 2.0 port, USB 3.0 port, which we actually can't use because the motherboard unfortunately does not have a USB 3.0 header on it, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Reset button, power button, and your onboard audio ports on the front here. On the front you have your 5¼ inch bay, just a graded intake, which I believe is filtered, but I could be wrong. On this side, there's really nothing on either of these sides. You could optionally get this case configured with a window, but at the particular retailer I bought this from, which was Memory Express, the only type that they carry is the budget windowless version, which is fine to me. It's not really a big deal. On the back, you have obviously your micro ATX motherboard, obviously 4 expansion slots, and where your I/O shield goes. Your little bottom mounted power supply, which is filtered. If I can take the filter out, well, we'll do that when we get to the bottom of it. And on the other side, again, nothing. You do have 2 removable side panels. It's a very accessible case. And on the bottom here, you have 4 feet and your power supply filter, which comes out like so. If you have a bottom intake power supply, but we don't, so it's kind of dubious benefit to us. But I mean, I think it's a pretty nice case, especially for the price. So if we take the side panel off, I'm just trying to figure out what side, because both of them look exactly the same. Just tip it here, undo. These come out completely, these little thumb screw things, and I dropped the other one on the floor. But it's not really a big deal since we'll be working with it anyway. So there's one side panel off. Let me just pick it up off the floor. Okay, there we go. It's probably gonna fall again. And here's our bag of our drive rails, our extra expansion cover, because these are all actually like stuck on. You have to break them off every time. You want to put something else, and your manual. In here we have the bundle of cables, which is simply wire tied in, which you have your various front switches here, your I take that back, your HD audio, and actually no, that I've seen, your USB 2.0 and USB 3.0, which we can't use as I mentioned earlier. So those can go out of the way somewhere. And you have two SSD mounts over here, and I believe they either go inside or on top, but I'm going to have to look at the manual to do that first. And we have a nice big cutout for where you can service your CPU cooler if you so desire. And the main reason I kind of decided I'd choose this case, well, first of all being price, is the fact that there is some cutouts for cable management as well as for, you know, just compared to other cases in this price range which don't actually have any cable management, aren't painted at all, and look incredibly low quality. This one, I think, it's being cheap, and it's also rather cheerful. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, there is a single fan installed in the back. It's, I believe, a 120mm fan, and it does have a 3-pin connector. I'm going to also take the other side panel off, and then I'm going to install the standoffs, and then once we do that, I'm going to mount the motherboard on camera. Or at least I'm going to research how to install the standoffs and read the manual first. Alright, so I have got all of my standoffs installed. There are a total of 8 standoffs for this particular motherboard. Completely unscientific. I just looked at the motherboard, looked at the case, put the standoff in, made sure I didn't put too many. But I think these are all the standoffs we need. We don't need any more than this. There are a total of 8, 3 on the top, 3 on the second layer, 1 on the third, and 1 on the fourth. So that's 8. So first we're going to grab our I/O shield and we're going to put that in. I think that it's in properly now. So now that I have the standoffs installed, I am going to grab my motherboard and I'm going to put it into my case very carefully. Okay, so that was a bit stressful, but I did manage to get it in. The trick is to look at your rear ports all the time, and then you can just kind of dovetail it in. Especially in this case where you have this overhang here, it's a little bit tight to work in. So now you're just going to take your little screws, make sure that you've aligned your motherboard properly with the standoffs, then you're just going to start screwing. So I guess I'm going to screw the motherboard in, and then we'll see what the instructions tell me to do next. Because this will require 2 hands, my face already in the case, and it would just be a whole bunch of mess to show on camera. Okay, so a few things have transpired since we first left off. The first thing that happened was I could not actually install the optical drive with this particular motherboard. It's not a problem with the optical drive, it's first of all a problem with the case, how the case is designed, and how the motherboard is designed. On the motherboard, there are 2 headers that are right beside where the optical drive is. And if I try to slide it in, it doesn't go all the way into where I need it to be without hitting those headers. And also having your optical drive right above your motherboard is not really a good thing. So that's a trade-off to have if you're using this style of motherboard, because this is actually a wider micro ATX motherboard. This is 9.6 by 9.6 square, compared to some of the other ones which are a little bit narrower because they only have 2 RAM slots. Yeah, I know I'm covering them up. But yeah, that's what happened with the optical drive. I did a little bit of cable management. I installed the discs, I hooked them up, I hooked up the front panel I/O. So I think one of the last things we need to do is install my graphics card. That surely is important, isn't it? I've already opened this up. I don't remember which side, though. No, not this side. Wrong side again. This is an EVGA GTX 1050 Ti. I probably already said that, but not a bad idea to say it again. It has 4 gigabytes of VRAM, GDDR5. An interesting platform. So it's in a nice anti-static wrapper, which is good. Don't want it to be shocked while in transport, right? Okay. So, here's the card itself. Yeah, I know I'm touching the bottom, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's a small little card. It should fit in here no problem. I think we're going to need to, first of all, take off one of the little things. I don't know how they actually come off. Oh, you just break them off like so. But unfortunately, I have a little capacitor in the way. Okay, there's one off, and since this is a double slotted card, I'm going to have to break off another one. So, there is the card. There's a little rubber protector, so I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to put this in, hopefully all live on camera for you folks in the audience. How am I doing? If I'm doing badly, don't say it in the comments, because you probably already know what's wrong with me by this point. Uh-oh. Little clip isn't going in. Okay, interesting. Just gonna take this out here. Take that out there for a second. There's like a little clip here. Oh, there we go. You just need to push this up if it's pushed down for you. Just pull it up. Okay, there we go. That's together now. So now what we need to do is we're going to need to find the proper PCI screws. Okay, so I have both of them found already. So I'm just going to screw it into these little screw points here. Well, maybe magnetize it first. Uh-oh. So I'm going to just need to bend the case inwards a little bit to get it to fasten into the actual PCI bracket here. Okay then, there we go. So we have the graphics card installed now. I think that's about it for all of the components that we need. Actually, no, I'm wrong. We still need to install the RAM. And that's pretty boring. I've been wanting to actually install it with some different RAM. Now I'm going to do some more cable management because this looks like a mess, and then I'm going to install the RAM, and I'm going to clean up, and then we might do a first power on. So how about that? So, darn guys, that was fast. We're already at the monitor. Well, I didn't really just want to skip through this because I don't really like being on camera much, doing all the nitty-gritty cleaning up. So, on this flash drive, I have the BIOS update to this computer. Yes, this computer starts up just fine, no problems at all. So I hope that I have this all plugged in. Well, okay, plug that in. And I have my keyboard hooked up. We have to press F7 on boot up, so let's go. To get into the BIOS update utility. Now, in order to update the BIOS, all you really need is a flash drive and a computer. You don't need any special software at all. Maybe a web browser. This one. You just click the you download the BIO file from Intel's website, and that will update it. This is version 068, 0068, the latest version. It was released sometime in 2017, I think in the beginning of June. Are you sure you wish to update the BIOS with this file? Yes. it just simply, you take out your USB and you start up the computer again. Well, the computer starts up again by itself. So there you go. Go into F2, the BIOS again. Still shows everything as normal, except the time is going a little bit. Actually, no. I'm using the time off of my phone, so the time is correct. It's just my clock down there, it's not quite correct. But, yeah. So, there we go. We have 8 gigs of RAM installed. I ended up not using these RAM sticks because I already had a few laying around. They look like this. And the thing is, unless this starts giving me issues down the road, these are labeled 10600E, which specifically means that they are ECC memory modules. And they tell me, oh, don't use ECC, it won't work. But somehow, this machine fired right up when I used the ECC RAM. So, and I didn't even open these up because I wanted to test it. And, well, there you go, it works. In 4 2GB sticks. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We are now running the 0068 BIOS revision. I'm going to go get my Mac, and we are going to go into the proper... we're going to go into the BIOS, and we're going to set it to the proper values. So I'm just going to turn that off. Alrighty then. Alright guys, here we are. I finally got my USB stick sorted out. The problem was when I was using the Mac to make the Unibeast USB drive, I selected UEFI instead of Legacy, so it kind of made the computer ignore it. So now I selected Legacy and it all seems to work fine. So now we're going to go into Disk Utility, and hopefully we can get these redone now. So I'm going to erase this. How about I just rename it something? Yeah, we're going to do it this way because I'm really too lazy to do a capture card or something. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Select the disk on which to install, Hackintosh HD. Alright, so now I'm going to let this run. Hello there everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 27th, 2017. It's me, Thermaltake Studios, back again, and I thought that we would wrap up 2017 by wrapping up another one of the videos this year, which is about this Hackintosh over here. I put this thing together in about August, and where we left off was when I was first putting on the first load of Sierra on this machine, which it is still running. So the issue that I was having was I was a little bit stupid and I didn't really read the directions on the website properly. and so I thought that it was supposed to just start off from the hard drive as soon as the installation from the USB had completed. But that was not the case, since I had to boot from the USB again and then install the bootloader and all the other drivers onto the hard drive, which I did not do. So therefore it kept saying boot device not found, that type of thing. So, and the first time it happened was because I set my USB to UEFI boot instead of BIOS boot, which, since this is a Q67 motherboard, it doesn't support. But other than that, this thing has been running pretty fine. No real big problems. I did manage to fix the audio. Right now I am using a pair of USB speakers, which are these JBL ones, but other than that, all the onboard audio devices do work. And I did manage to get a temperature monitor type application going on. iStat menus does not work because there's something up with one of the kexts or whatnot, which just doesn't seem to work properly, but this one, which is free and it's basically the same thing, called HW Monitor, works just fine. And it seems to detect all the temperatures for the CPU, which is mostly what I care about. But unfortunately, since I'm running a 10 series GPU, it doesn't work. I'm not really sure how accurate most of these are, but I don't really mind as long as the temperatures here are at least somewhat accurate. After that, I set up this machine. Since I have one SSD and one hard drive in here, a 160 gig SSD and a 1.5 terabyte hard drive, I put the main user folder on the hard drive, which is pretty easy to do. You can simply do that on a website. There was some directions, I think it was like 9to5Mac or whatnot, and it runs over it pretty well, so it's not that difficult to do. Just go into System Preferences. So basically I have this thing starting off of the 160 gigabyte SSD, which makes it pretty quick, and then I have all my files and whatnot on the hard drive, so that's not really a big problem. One complaint I do have about this machine is the lack of USB 3.0. I was meaning to purchase an adapter to use the USB 3.0 port that's on the top here, but that has still not happened, and I doubt that it's going to happen, because I'm not really planning on keeping this machine for a horribly long time. It will probably be repurposed into a different case also. And no matter what I try through Multibeast or otherwise, I cannot get the USB 3.0 ports to work, not even under USB 2.0 speed. So therefore I have 2 less USB ports on this machine, which is a bit of a pain. But you know what, it's fine. I rarely actually attach things to this computer. I don't even sync my phone with it because my music library is actually kept on my laptop, because that's what I keep with me most of the time. So that's one gripe. Another gripe being from the nVidia GPU. Now, at the time when I was planning this build, which is in about July or so, there was really little evidence about the Radeon RX series GPUs to work with macOS 10, which is what I wanted to do, because all the Macs, including this one right here, use AMD GPUs, so, and those were supposed to give you better OpenCL, which is what's necessary for iMovie and Final Cut and whatnot. So I was just using that. I was just thinking, hey, I'm going to use that, but there were other issues and I didn't want to spend my money risking that it wouldn't work, and since this was also my very first PC build in general, I didn't want to risk that, so I just ended up biting the bullet and buying a 1050 Ti. I kind of wish I haven't, but like basically the week that I bought it and the week I started making this build, there was more information released about getting the RX series GPUs to work under macOS 10.12.6 Sierra, which is what I'm running on here. I'm not putting High Sierra on this thing for a number of reasons, and as long as I keep this machine here, this thing's not going High Sierra, and I don't really want to make a pain in the ass of upgrading it and redoing all the drivers and such. So basically, this computer's staying on Sierra forever. I'm not upgrading it. But One other thing that I have with the nVidia GPUs is mostly to do with the driver, and other people have noted this as well, is that the menu bar up on the top here, it often glitches. Sometimes I wake the system up and it's just a black bar. Unless I click somewhere, then it kind of comes back. Or sometimes I'm just using it and certain icons, like for example like the temp sensor or whatnot, it just becomes black all of a sudden. And that's incredibly annoying. Although it does come back eventually, it's a little hokey to me, and I kind of wish that nVidia would often focus on doing that, but unfortunately they're not going to do that. The webcam has been working just fine, no problem with the webcams at all. It works just fine over Skype, and the audio from the webcam works. I'm using a Logitech mouse, which does work with their control center here, which is what you can use to program all the buttons and whatnot, but I was using this mouse with the Mac Mini, so I don't really have any gripes with that. So I am using a PC keyboard with this. This is your command key, and I'd rather get a Mac keyboard, but at this point, when I do get a proper Mac keyboard, it's going to be a proper Apple keyboard, not one of these, because they released the wireless one with a built-in numeric trackpad. So overall, would I recommend building a Hackintosh? If you're technically savvy, it's not a bad idea. You just really need to do your homework. You need to be one of those people who plans ahead. One of the reasons why I did this build anyway was because I had a lot of spare parts laying around, like the processor and the RAM and the disk drives and all that stuff, so I could put it together rather cheaply. I didn't have to spend a lot of money on it, and the case was pretty cheap, and I didn't spend a whole lot of money on the case or the graphics card. I actually spent near MSRP, even though when I bought it in around August, it was near the tail end of the hyperinflation of GPUs because of Ethereum mining and whatnot. I would recommend building a Hackintosh. You just really need to always plan ahead. Look at your parts. Always, I believe that Tony Mac X86, which was honestly a godsend for this, because there were like 2 other users who had this same motherboard, and they managed to get the audio issues fixed and all that stuff. So that's kind of what made this build rather easy. All the ACPI stuff with this particular motherboard, which is an Intel DQ67SW, works flawlessly. I don't have any problems with that. It sleep wakes. The only times I had issues with it was when there was something to do with the USB devices. Other than that, it worked just fine, no problem. I mean, the shutdowns, it depends, really. Sometimes it shuts down, like, immediately, like, right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a few seconds for the actual blue light on the front of the case to turn off. But then again, it works good enough. I'm not going to bother messing with it because this isn't really going to be a permanent machine. I like this Hackintosh, but there are still lots of improvements that need to be made. But as for now, it works just fine, so I'm going to leave it. So, I wish all of my viewers and subscribers a happy new year. This year, 2017, has been an absolutely great year for this channel. I am very surprised at what has happened. I'm honestly kind of proud of myself, and I'm honestly extremely thankful to all of my viewers here who are supporting this channel, viewing all my videos, leaving feedback. I usually always reply. If you have any questions or whatnot, usually I get a notification like on my phone, on the computer, or whatnot, and I see it, and usually I'll reply because I want to be helpful to all you guys. I don't want to be one of those people who are like, oh, the channel's not really my foremost priority. And the reason why that might seem to most people is because I almost never make videos on a normal basis. And there's and that's partially twofold. One being, I am obviously a person, I have life outside of this that's going on, particularly school. That's really taking up a lot of my time right now. I can't make daily, weekly, whatever videos. because I don't have time to plan, edit, upload, all that stuff. Though uploading will get easier soon, but not right now. And the other reason is financial. Like, I don't have any corporate sponsorship or anything with any of my projects here. I pay for all of this stuff out of pocket. And I mean, I can't make a video every month if I have to end up dropping like $200, $300, $400 on that stuff. It's not feasible and it's not right. And I try to make a video when I feel like it's enjoyable for me to do so. And I feel like this was one of those times. Another habit of me is just like dropping something and then picking it up, which is usually the case for these past two videos, because I've been a little bit... For me, I usually start something and then I kind of get annoyed about it, and then I drop it, but then I come back to it. And part of that for me is I'm usually into something so much that I get annoyed by it, and I need to kind of step back and think straight, versus me just kind of going on and on and on and then getting angry about it. So that's kind of the reason why I leave my videos so much until the end. And I kind of just record these endings as kind of a postscript to what happened, and a good way to wrap it up. So, I wish all my viewers I hope all my viewers had a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever. Have a Happy New Year. Lots of things going on for 2018. I have a few things that I want to get done, but I had a few things that I want to get done in 2017, and those might have not ever gotten done anyway, so we'll have to see. But I really hope that the support continues for this channel. I'll definitely try to make as many videos as I possibly can without, breaking my wallet and decreasing my sanity. But other than that, you guys, thank you for watching, and as always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.